Okay, so let's just take a moment and just allow ourselves to connect with our bodies. Just to feel that breath moving through us. It rises and falls in our abdomen. Allowing us to become fully aware of our bodies. Noticing the furniture that is supporting us. The light in the room, any movement of air, any sounds or other beings. And just feeling ourselves centered and grounded in this moment. We open ourselves up to that impress of the divine, that all-pervading presence that is with us continuously, that moves through us on the breath, that surrounds us with the light, that is living its life through us right here and right now. And how good it is to come together in this consciousness of one, knowing that each one of us is that perfect emanation of the divine, doing the work of spirit right here and right now. And I just give great thanks for the willingness of each person to be here, to do this work, to be that presence, to open up to what is available. And so I know our time together is perfect. It's already complete in the mind of the one, and we just simply relax into it and allow grace to lead the way. And for this and so much more, I just give thanks. And so it is.
So it is.
All right. I hope more people come because we're doing community visioning today. It's a little easier with more people. But let's take a look at what you've done for your visioning so far. I'm going to put some focus questions here in the chat, just to kind of direct us here. So how are you doing? How are you completing the process? Are you using the recordings, or are you doing it on your own? How did it go? Are you seeing any patterns or themes emerging? And how was it with that embrace, embody, and become this week?
Thank you for sending the recording out.
You're welcome.
I like that a lot. Yeah. I kind of keep getting the same answers over and over, and it's just kind of, you know what I mean? It's just so broad. It hasn't come down into like something really specific.
Mm-hmm.
Just trust, relax. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've been using the recordings. They're really good, actually. I very much enjoy them. Oh, you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think right. Because there are some points I like to go back and re-listen to. So I like having that ability.
Has there anything that's come through in the embrace, embody, become that you are like, oh no, I'm not doing that? You know, because sometimes it pops through that way. It's like, oh yeah, no, that's more than I want to do. Anything showing up like that for you, or anything that you know maybe it's like, oh yeah, I know I need to do this, but I haven't done it yet. So Ray, I saw your hand.
Oh, just sometimes boring is good. But I want to thank you as well, sending out that recording. I realize that took a bit of time to put it on YouTube and all together. Yeah, I feel like, I want to do one of those, maybe keep like a music in the background or something. I know I want to ask you about that, because that might disturb too if people are getting visuals or other music cues. So maybe not, but I know sometimes I'm kind of in that moment, and then do this. It's like, oh, well, okay, kind of back to reality a little bit, which is
I actually tried to put some music on there. I was building it in iMovie, and I could not get the volume of the music down enough. It was just too
Oh.
distracting. So I need to play with it. It's been a while since I've done much with iMovie, but I need to play with it a little bit more and see what it is, where the setting is that I needed to do it. Because you know, you can put multiple tracks in there and you can increase and decrease the volume on there. And I did it as much as I could and wasn't making any difference. So I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I thought music would have been nice too, especially in those moments when I'm not speaking. Except that you can't start and stop it because then that's distracting. You know, it has to kind of like be that undercurrent of it. So anyway.
it is perfect. Oh, and then let's see, you'd ask oh yeah, well, still coming out of hermit mode. I put a little bit of pause on things, and because I've already put it out there and I have lists and people still are looking forward to what I might offer here soon. Because I want to be pulled by that vision, and I want to be clear myself. And I believe I am. The same things keep coming up, but part of it is, okay, dude, you got to put yourself out there. You got to do, the things. And I know I still have resistance doing that because, well, it's putting yourself out there, right? It's like, okay. And just, I think that's part of the bigger picture, is being okay with that, being more than okay, but just realizing, because I see the need, and that's what's generating part of the poll. It's like, okay, this is needed, and this is something that I have that I can offer. They're like my gifts, my service, and as part of this life. And it's like, okay, it's like, as much as I love like knowing a lot of this for myself and experiencing it and being in that hermit mode and meditating and going over this stuff. Yeah, sometimes it's not so much fun, but going over and doing the work, and it's constant, I realize, but I've had such a space to be able to do that. And now I realize, okay, now I've been drawn out. And it's like, okay, so I need that's what I'm working on, getting comfortable with that. And I don't know if it's really comfort or if we're just waiting for the 2x4. It's like, I mean, it's here. And as I've started to put myself out, then I'm being called out even more, which is interesting. Even had a meeting with the Masons last week. That was interesting.
But
Yeah, the group that, yeah, one of them came to my sound baths and then wanted me to perhaps offer classes through the Masons, the Masonic Lodge here in town. And so meeting with them and kind of experiencing that was interesting. So
yeah, it's sometimes the vision seems to be bigger than we want to do. You know, like you get the vision and it's like, oh, that's challenging me more than I want to go. You know, so that's an opportunity for us to discern really what's ours to do, what we're actually willing to do, and what we're resistant to doing, and maybe that's our area of growth. You know, that, what do they call it, the growing edge. You know, that that's where we need to stretch ourselves a little bit, and so it's all, you know, it's all a process. I mean, when it feels too big for me, then I kind of go within and say, okay, what's my resistance to this? And oftentimes there's something I need to release, you know, because if I release something, then I'm making more space for something else to happen in my life. And, you know, and we have attachments to things that we don't really want to release, you know, and that's why you know, there's so many of us that are hoarders and pack rats and all of this stuff where we have too much stuff, you know. Great for the storage unit business, but not so good for our lives. You know, it just becomes clutter, and not only clutter, it's a energetic noise that's filling our space all the time. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, what do I need to release here to make room for this, you know? And what am I afraid of? You know, like I said, you know, we have those 5 questions and And they're great guidelines, but you can ask other questions in there too, you know, like, you know, that whole, what am I afraid of here? You know, what's my resistance to this? Why am I feeling this push-pull all of the time with it? And just listen for the answers. You know, again, asking questions with the intention of hearing an answer is such a powerful thing to be able to do in our lives. So
Yeah, the embrace and become part is saying, you know, to embrace the stuckness, embrace the fear, you know, that are coming up, like feel it, embrace it, and then become fearless and step into freedom. You know, it's a lot of themes around being free and graceful and trusting. Because I've had a background of just being too nice to people and just, you know, kind of just going, okay. And so this week I pushed, you know, which seemed, somebody even said, yeah, you sounded aggressive. I'm just like, okay, well, I pushed, you know, and so it was a realtor because, you know, I was like, you know, I don't know what I said on the message. She's like, wow, you sound aggressive. And I was like, okay, I guess that's good. You know, I'm going, the pendulum swung in the opposite direction. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, maybe that was just aggressive for the norm that they were used to from you. Whether
Yeah.
it's really aggressive or not. Yeah, I mean,
you know, when we start to shift like this and the people around us start to notice it and they become uncomfortable oftentimes, you know, as we become clearer about what we're called to do and we start saying no to the things that we would have said yes to in the past, it makes people uncomfortable around us. They're not used to that. And you'll find all kinds of interesting reactions to it. You know, I had an incident not too long ago where I just stood up for myself and the person said to me, well, I think maybe you need to see a therapist. And I'm like, I'm just standing up for myself here. I'm just affirming what it is I want and not get caving into what you want. And, you know, their reaction was to attack, you know, to find a, yeah, I need to get help. I'm thinking it's the other way, but that's okay. You know, I didn't say it, but you know, it's like, okay, but it'll be interesting to watch what happens. You know, I found in my life as I embraced this way of being and this philosophy that pretty much all of my old relationships are, I mean, we're cordial, we're friendly, there's, you know, we get together and have a good time, but they're not my peeps anymore. They're not the people I rely on for the things that I used to rely on them for. You know, I found it with my family and I found it with a lot of my close friends. It's to, you know, it's kind of sad. And sometimes I have a tendency to want to recapture it. But then I spend time with it. I'm like, oh yeah, now I remember why. I remember why I don't hang out with you anymore like this. You know, when their belief systems are so limited on this is the way it is and there's no other choice. And, you know, a lot of it's in that victim consciousness. And it's like, yeah, okay, this is what it is. So just, you know, be prepared for that. You know, to have changes happening around you, people reacting differently to you. You know, my family thought it was a cult, you know, they really did. They were like, oh my God, she's in this cult. And I'm like, okay. You know, and there was no, you know, my oldest brother, there was no convincing him of anything else. But you know, I've done all the weddings and all the funerals in my family, so they're all right with that, but they're just not real sure about all this because it's beyond their scope of, you know, religion wasn't ever important to them, or spirituality was never, you know, they didn't look for that. So, you know.
You don't even have a secret handshake.
No, we don't. You know, and you know, I like to look at it and think, okay, well, pretty much every religion is a cult, but you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we had an article in the from the Science of Mind magazine to read from Matthew Heim. I think it's Heim, I'm not positive how he pronounces his name, about taking visioning out into a more secular environment. What did you find interesting in this article? It's on, well, I don't know what page it is on yours, let's see.
Yeah, I you know, at first I was like, oh, you know, the community aspect wasn't, you know, I was like, okay, whatever. But then when I read it, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been thinking about. So many of our systems are broken. So many of our systems are broken, and they don't have a higher vision, and they don't have spirit, source involved. And when they said that they went into the corporate groups, and it actually got the egos out of the way, because you know, so many of these, not just corporate, but just, you know, these types of structures have hierarchies, you know, and there's the president and the vice president and the CEOs and this, you know, and all the order. And it actually got their egos out of the way where they could start working as a unity, as a group consciousness, you know. They call it in the 12-step group the psychic change, which is really cool. I like that. And they talk about group consciousness of a group, and creating a psychic change. It's just, I really want to do that. I was thinking this morning, like, could I vision for groups that I'm not even involved with, just as a prayer, you know, that, you know, even our legal system is so messed up. They criminalize everybody when they just need help for trauma, you know. It's like, yeah, so yeah, I really got a lot out of it.
There's I can't remember where, but tribes in Africa, if somebody, like if there's somebody's in trouble or has committed some kind of act of some kind, everyone in the tribe gathers around them and tries to support them to, like, okay, why did you do this and what? So it's like sort of the whole tribe's problem is that, so we're here, instead of going, oh, we're going to shun you, they like embrace you and go, okay, you know, how do we solve this? Which is such a great way to handle something. I know, like parenting, you know, it's like, if it does something wrong, it's kind of better to find out, okay, why'd you do that? let's work together to stop it, instead of me going, go to your room and, you know, we're not even going to talk about it. So I love that. I love that idea. And I think if we embrace that in business as well, it would be, and in our society, be better.
In the previous visioning class, we actually went through and we visioned for our community, we visioned for the world, we visioned for our state, we visioned for special groups, things like that. This one has the visioning for the community, which kind of encompasses all of it and can be used for different things. But you can vision for anything, whether you, like you said, whether it's, you know, your place or not to do it, you're not involved in the group, but you know there's a space there, an opening there for something else to be happening, like in our justice system and so forth. You know, there's a place there for change to happen and making and bringing that in. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Bringing in the consciousness of spirit to anything that you think of opens up a space for spirit to be active there. You know, it's that whole, like, you know, you take one step towards God and it takes 1,000 steps towards you. You just open up the space. You be that place where spirit can work through, and you don't know how it's going to show up. You don't have to know how it shows up. You know, we can be holding the consciousness, being in prayer, being in meditation, just knowing truth, whatever, practicing the presence. And we've opened up a space in that, you know, I don't know if you know anything about quantum physics, but there's these, everything exists in waves of possibility. And the more you put your attention to something, the more rapidly it collapses into the experience. And so, so you're out there and you're putting your consciousness into these waves of possibility, and somewhere there's somebody who has dropped to their knees and needing something, they're desperate for something, and the possibility hits them. You know, we don't know how it's going to happen. We don't know where it's going to show up, and we don't have to know. But our job is just to be that place where spirit can move into possibility. And you know, all of this work that we're doing, visioning, treatment, meditation, all of that is all about opening ourselves up to be that place through which spirit works, because that's the only way it comes into this world, is through each one of us individually, through all of its creation. But you know, it has to have that willingness for us to open up to it and allow it to rush into us. And like, you don't know what's going to be possible after that, and it's really, like with my family and friends and stuff, I just hold the high watch for them, and just happen, being that, knowing the highest truth for them is unfolding. And whether it does or doesn't, I don't have any control. All I can do is the work that I'm called to do, and that's all any of us can do with this. And this visioning for the community can be so powerful. Visioning in a community is really powerful too. When you get a group of people that are dedicated to it, there becomes this cohesiveness that is, I've not experienced it in anything else the way I've experienced it in the visioning groups, where we're all there catching that vision and being that place where spirit comes in, and then watching what unfolds. I think I might have spoke last week about a visioning group I did for about a year and a half with 4 other women. There were 5 of us total. And every other week we visioned for our own lives. And then the last question we asked after we'd gone through our whole visioning for my life was, what is the highest vision for each one of the people in the group? And so we'd go around, what is the highest vision for Susie? What is the highest vision for Cindy? And so forth, as we went around the group. And then we shared what came through for us individually, and then what came through for each person. And that was so powerful. And I tell you, the group is still connected. It's been 10 years since we've done this, but we're still really well connected to each other. And that we're the people that, we rely on when we're in a crisis. Those are our peeps. Those are the people that we reach out to. And, generally it's just like no truth for me right now. And I know that people are on it, and because we've built this cohesiveness through the visioning as a community. The vision cores that we do at the centers, powerful experience, really is. And most of the people that I served as the co-lead of the vision core for 7 years, and our turnover rate was hardly anything. If it was anything, it was because someone had work had changed and they couldn't make the meeting anymore, or something along those lines. But it wasn't because they wanted to be done with it. People wanted to stay, and that group stayed together pretty much intact for over 7 years. And we visioned twice a month on Sunday mornings for our center at the time. And that's a long time for a group to stay together, because there were 12 of us. And anyway, that was cool. Did you notice anything about how we talked about the languaging and so forth? Ray, did you want to say something first?
Oh, well, just getting back to the article. I was surprised, and maybe I shouldn't have been, that there was an openness to the visioning process, because of course you have to get upper management or even, the CEO to agree to this. So oftentimes they have to see that there's an issue or a problem, which is sometimes difficult to get their egos out of the way of that. I remember being in a large corporation, way back. And then there was this transparency thing going on where companies were coming up with mission statements where everybody could get involved. Mm-hmm. But it still wasn't to the level of this missioning. Usually a focus group or, somebody already, often from ego, already put together this statement, and then it was introduced to everybody and everybody was allowed to kind of give their feedback, but you never really felt like there really was. But we're all supposed to get on board with this feel-good statement. But was it ever, was it real? Was there anything really behind it? And I think that seems to be the difference with visioning, and even what he found going into the corporations, whether it was when he talked about the beverage company or that other company. And he said the surprising thing was that it was junior management, that it was employees that then were starting to drive this. Mm-hmm. To me, that's what feels different, when people can feel that they're really part of something. And that it's part of their
organic.
Yeah. And their soul work, part of what they really can contribute then. To me, that seems to be the difference in visioning into just what I've known in corporate structure, even though they might have considered that's what they were doing with their mission statements. So it feels very powerful.
You have to begin to change the languaging. If you said we're going to do this spiritual process, and we're going to touch with that unconditional love that's provided by God, people are going to run for the hills. They're going, oh no, we're not doing this stuff. But if you walked into the stage,
Right.
I've been reading a lot about mindfulness lately. And so I'd like to take us into a mindfulness experience and ask some probing questions. There's not a person in there that's going to give you
Yeah.
a shit about it, because it's like, okay, that's totally doable. I'm totally into that. Mindfulness is, it's a big thing right now. And
Oh,
so, just that kind of stuff. But you start talking about words that are, part of our jargon, they're running, and so when you go to enter it, we do that centering ourselves in unconditional love. So what I would do in a group like that is I would say, okay, let's just breathe into our chest here. You might call that your heart center. And let's just breathe into that space right in here and feel that space, and just, that's the same thing. It's just a different languaging that's going to be more
Yeah.
acceptable to people that may be put off by church.
Yeah, let's turn our lives over to God. Let's turn this all over to God.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because of course everybody
That'll
has
work for a
their
few of
about
them.
God. And so many people have been wounded by religions that,
Right.
they don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just begin to change our the highest vision. Now that's not at all,
But then
this,
yeah.
people aren't going to get riled up over that, the highest vision for our lives. I mean, they're thinking, okay, that's all right. So it's, just a matter of reframing it for people that, maybe, like I said, off put by it. And I also change my visioning with whatever group I'm doing at my center. They're all used to hearing us pray, and we start most of our classes with an invocation. But when I get a group of people that are newer, I'll start it off with a centering meditation instead of an invocation, where I'm not really, because again, it's just a matter of knowing the audience and knowing what they're gonna react to, because you don't want people in there having that reaction, that if you can avoid it. I mean, there are some people that are gonna, oh my God, this is a bunch of woo-woo nonsense, I'm not doing this. But the most you can, as much as you can, make it more secular, more on the track of mindfulness, meditation, that kind of stuff, because those things transcend any religion.
They joke about the people sitting in the back by the door. You know what I mean? A lot of ministers, the people sitting in the back by the door so that they can run out.
Oh, yeah, you get that even in the sound baths, it's
Yeah.
like, and speaking to that, yeah, it's been interesting because I had a large city in the area approach me for their employees and their mental healthness days. And they go, yeah, these sound baths, these are new things. And I'm looking at them going, I've been doing it for like 15 years. But it's reaching more consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more awareness in HR of doing mental health and maybe the health. I can't say every company because it doesn't seem like that, but a lot of companies are. And even it surprised me, a very big sales and packaging company in our area. I got approached by someone there, and I just think it's interesting that it's coming, more of that's coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of what I mean by being called out. So this conversation is helpful.
Yeah.
Because when I do the sound baths, I have a need to speak to some of this,
Mm-hmm.
right? As people do, as you center them in, as you begin to hold that space, and the whole group holds space for each other. I mean, it's a really wonderful thing. But yeah, to find that language and kind of the way to do it that's somewhat generic enough and yet helps guide people into that state.
Well, I imagine you probably had a different experience if you were calling it sound healing.
Yes.
People are thinking, okay, what are you going to do to me? But a sound bath, I'm just being washed through it, And if you talk about the vibrational quality of the sound moving through you, is a whole lot of different than saying the spirit of divine is moving through you. It's the same thing, but people are going to be put off by the one phrasing where they wouldn't necessarily be by the other. If you make it more science-based, more, this is just a mechanical thing happening, that's moving through you, then as opposed to the spirit moving through you, that's a whole different feeling.
Yeah, you're right. And I think we tend to, I know, I start to realize my bubbles sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the verbiage or the people that I'm around. And it's like, oh, if I'm in a CSL center, I'm kind of preaching to the choir. And yes, new people are coming in or whatever. And it's like, and that's part of why, I have this awareness. It's like, how can I reach the most people? And
Right.
it's not an ego thing, but how do I meet the need? How do I, and so is it, how far do I go with this? Even becoming like a practitioner within the center. And yet, the people from all walks of life want to hold a sound bath
Mm-hmm.
at the center. And a lot of the same information is being like given out, like in a small dose, but it's like, so people are coming, they're receptive. And to me, that's just kind of a wonderful thing because you're getting people from all walks of life and every color and age. And they're all coming together in the same room, but they're all having an individual experience.
This is great. I would like to learn more about the sound, being a sound facilitator. That's, I've been doing it like you've been doing it for 15 years. Like, I've been around it forever. I didn't even know there was any kind of certification for it.
Yeah, correct. Whether there really needs to be. I mean, it's really exploded, right? My
Yeah.
mentor growing up, and his father was into a lot of this. I mean, he grew up in the base of the Himalayas, but only knew of two sound practitioners. And now I don't know how many thousands there are. It's kind of the same with Reiki. And I will say the thing that feeds me is when people come to a sound bath that I facilitate and say, this was different. I got something from this. It didn't feel like a performance. It touched me spiritually deeply. And that's to me, and it's like, yeah, and I don't want to lose that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if it goes to ego, then you do. I mean, every time I show up, it's like there's no expectation. It's like I play the instrument. It's like, oh, there's that beautiful sound. It's like, oh, look, people are coming in the door. Isn't this great? And just trying to hold that. And it's hard for me to explain that. And I suppose it does get kind of mystical for me. And even in the performance, it's different. And even though I'll have other facilitators, they know just to kind of follow my lead.
Mm-hmm.
And it just flows, and it's a little bit different every time.
Well, and that's like, back to the visioning thing, is the same thing. You just have to have that space of openness and modify where we need to, where we're called to do that, and let it be what it needs to be for that group, and then watch what happens. And I have a friend that's a spiritual entrepreneur is what she calls herself, and so she takes all of this out into businesses. She doesn't call it this stuff. She doesn't tell them that we're going to sit and vision for something, but she'll take them through the guided questions and to the practice of it, and it finds that they're very receptive to it. But again, you have to take it into language that they can understand and not be off-putting. And so I think that's one of our key points to this whole thing, with taking it outside of our centers. Like you said, Ray said it, we're preaching to the choir at our church. They're used to it. They'll eat that up. But you take it outside into the world, and it's like, okay, what is different? We're building our new building right now, and we have about 35 to 50 people on a Sunday, and that's not going to sustain it. So I'm looking at ways to actually grow it. And I look at the 35 to 50 people that we have, and most of them are older than I am, and most of them are women, and it's just like this little social club that seems to be, and it's like, that's not going to sustain this new building that we have. We're fortunate that we will get into it with no mortgage, but we still have to pay utilities and all the other things that go along with that. So I'm looking at secular things. What can I do to bring people in that are seeking a different experience, but not necessarily God, and yet they're open to something else, and we'll just see what happens to it. So one of the things that we have, we're putting in is an indoor labyrinth, and it'll be the only indoor labyrinth in Las Vegas. And so I'm doing like a labyrinth workshops. I'm doing labyrinth facilitator training. We're going to rent the labyrinth out for people that want to come and do group experiences for themselves, that kind of stuff. So get the people into the door and see what we have to offer. I got to get them in the door. And so I have to find different ways to do that, and a lot of it's our languaging and the visual pictures that we put on our brochures and all of that stuff, that whole marketing aspect of it. It's like, how do we reach the people without turning them off, without making them think they're getting into something that they don't want? I mean, when we were getting our special use permit, the people in the neighborhood were like, well, I don't know whether to object to this church or not, because I don't know what you are, and it was really quite wonderful when the people from the county building commission said, well, sir, you can't ask what they are. We happen to be in a country that practices religious freedom, so it doesn't really matter what they are, but they saw Center for Spiritual Living and thought, oh my God, what is this stuff? What's going on here? Am I going to wind up with a cult next to me again?
Again. Again. Okay.
So it's like,
Laura,
okay.
you should see your energy field as you have been talking about this. Your aura is so lit up, and you have like a crown chakra halo thing. You're in your mission.
Yeah, I really feel like I am. I really feel like this is, everything was worked out so perfectly that it can't be anything else but divinely guided. Everything has just step by step by step fallen into place. And it's like, we're at this place now. We thank the pandemic, honestly, because our community wasn't willing to sell the building prior to the pandemic. We tried in 2018 to sell the building, and they're like, oh, no, we're not selling the building. But then when it got to be, March of 2020, and nobody can go to church, we're paying this X number of dollars to keep a building maintained that we can't even be in, and and it doesn't look like we're going to be in it for a year or more, and then all this stuff it was like it was a no-brainer. It was a unanimous vote from one that was almost unanimous not selling it to one that was, and it was simply because of that. They couldn't be there, and they're looking at the money that we're spending, and there was just no way. So then we got this, lovely offer from UNLV. We paid it. They paid it off, and we wound up with a couple of $1 million, and we bought a building, and we're finishing the construction, and we'll have some money left over. And I mean, it's like the best of all situations for it. I mean, we're going down to a third of the size that we were, but that's all right. We had more space than we could use. So, and we'll just see. So it really feels like this is, perfectly and divinely guided. And, and part of this was the visioning process too. I mean, the groups that were getting ready to sell the building visioned what's the highest and best for dealing with this building, and it very clearly came through: release the building, release the building, release the building, in so many different ways from so many different people. It was just came through that way. When they were getting ready to hire a new minister, they went through the visioning process, and which led to doing the co-creation process, which is a different form of visioning basically, but it's it's a more of a guided step-by-step thing to bring stuff forth. And I swear they wrote it for me. They wrote that statement that they had for the co-creation process just for me, because it was like, that's who I am. And all this. So it really feels like we're onto something here. We're looking at in conjunction with our church opening up another 501c3 that is an education focus, because if you're an education focused one, you can apply for grants. If you're a religious one, they don't give you grants. And so we're looking at doing that in conjunction with our center, so that we can actually apply for and get some different grants for things like, corporate trainings, or, stuff out in the workplace for specific groups and things like that. So it really feels like we're on the right track for things. And so thank you for saying that I'm lit up, because I feel like it. I am. Yeah. I appreciate that.
There's a woman who's in one of my classes for the prerequisites, and her big thing is just like, she just makes money. She can't and if she tries to quit, her company just throws more money at her. She just has an abundance thing. That's her thing. And so that's what she wants to do in her practitioner and ministry is channel money for the group,
Mhm.
you know, because that's needed. You know, you need somebody in the finance department, you know.
Absolutely.
You can't wear all the hats, you know, as the minister. You know, like there's a lot of hats. And so
Yeah, you know, I have an education background. I don't have a business background. So I'm relying on other people to talk about the business aspect of it. Me, I can do the vision and, you know, and I can plan workshops and classes around it, but, you know, somebody else needs to have the practical stuff there too, which is one of the good things about having a, you know, leadership council that, you know, I have zero control over money. I have absolutely nothing to do with the money. That's the way they set it up, the way I want it to be, because I don't ever want to have anybody, you know, as a minister, you have to watch a couple of things. One of them is money, and one of them is having relationships with people in the congregation. So you just kind of want to avoid those things altogether, because that's where your trouble comes in, those two issues. So anything else is pretty much easy to take care of, but those are the two that you just kind of avoid. And all through ministerial school, they told us that, you know. So we just don't do that. So anyways, it's
I found it interesting. I have a friend who just became a minister through CSL, and her big thing was, you know, visioning, and she's doing visioning what her platform is going to be as a minister. You know, she doesn't have a church, she doesn't have you know, what's her platform? She's really into the Science of Mind magazine and wants to keep it running. So I never thought of that you have like a vision for your ministry, and you know, your voice carries that. It's fascinating to me. I love it.
you know, there's having the vision for my personal ministry, but I also can't make that the vision for my church. You know what I mean? It's like I have an idea for my center, but I bought into this. So like Ray was saying, when you write a mission statement and somebody else writes it and then expects everybody else to buy into it, you've got to create a collective. Yeah. So we always do the visioning process with our mission statements. The one that we're using, I feel the need for it to change, but I haven't done that yet because there were so many changes going on. It's like, okay, we're still okay with that, but I think it honestly feels to me like it was done through a mental process, not so much. I mean, I know the vision for it, but it's just like a bunch of words. I don't have any buy-in to that particular thing.
Time.
I don't remember.
I think you know that too. It is time. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it is. Even that's how much I don't care for it. Let's see if I can find it here.
Well, I love ours because when people ask me, you know, not being a practitioner yet, or maybe everybody is or whatever, but you know, and people will say, well, this is an interesting place. And you know, and it's like, so what do you believe? And it's like, oh, well, you know, believe in like everyone's or fostering everyone's highest potential through the transformative power of love.
Yeah. And see, here's ours: to inspire spiritual discovery through community connection, exploration, and celebration.
What?
I
see, yeah, it's time.
Yeah, it's like,
and especially with this new space and this new energy.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that the Vision Corps is going to start working on. But like I said, I felt to me like this, you know, one thing that you don't do is when you come in as a minister is you don't make a lot of changes. You know, that's not something you do right off the bat. And so there's certain things that I was attached to making changes on more than others. So the vision mission statements, meh.
Yeah, can I ask? So you were part of Vegas, and then I know that you did some other things, and then you came back, right? When did you come back?
So I was gone for 3 years. So in 2019, I became a senior minister at CSL St. George, which is about 2 hours from here. And I was there for 18 months, and then I was recruited to go to home office. And so I was there for 18 months. And then I came back here to Vegas.
Okay.
So, you know, I was kind of following spirit and leading me where I needed to go. I mean, St. George is a sweet community, and I'd been up there a lot of times to speak, but you know, I was actually paying to be there. You know, by the time I paid for everything that I had to pay for, it was like the salary I was actually paying to be there. And it's like, yeah, maybe not. And then, like I said, they recruited me into home office. And I thought I really wanted to do that because I really felt like I could be part of a change for our movement.
Mhm.
And so anyway, then I came back here to Vegas, and I really feel good about that. I mean, and it's been my home for 47 years, except for those 3 years I was gone. Family's here, friends are here, and it's actually a really pretty decent place to live, other than June, July, and August. It's really a nice place, and we have good air conditioning in those months. So, but
You
Yeah,
really
Ken-
want to freak people out, put a statue of Elvis out front. That would really, I just keep seeing, when you say Vegas, I just keep seeing Elvis. So funny.
he died the year I moved here, so it's like he died in 77 when we moved here.
Wow.
I know my mom was bummed because she hadn't had a chance to see him yet. He hadn't come back to town.
and yet he survives. I'm sure she has plenty of
Right.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Exciting.
How many impersonators? Some
Oh
are
my gosh.
quite good, some are
Mhm.
kind of questionable, but
If you want to get married by him, that's really easy.
its spirit certainly lives on.
We had one of our
Yeah.
members of our congregation for a long time was a minister with some other denomination, just because he wanted to marry people, and he was an Elvis impersonator, and so
Wow.
he would do the
Uh,
Elvis weddings at the chapels. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I just have to say that I usually skip Vegas if I'm going on to somewhere else, and I'll stay in St. George.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the reasons that you were drawn there.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
Yes, and I know that there's areas of like that in Vegas too. I mean, it's right next door. I
Yeah.
just haven't experienced those, and
Well, you can't, if you count Vegas as the Strip in downtown, then that's a whole different life.
yeah.
I mean, we have 2.2
Yeah.
million people that live in this area, and I honestly, I was at the Strip in May because friends had tickets to see Love, so I went down there to see Love. That's the only reason I ever go down, is if somebody has a ticket that's either a half price or free, and or
Really? You're
somebody's
not
having a
eating-
special event. That's the only reason I go down there.
You're not eating at the buffets down there and going to
No.
the Paras and all.
No. If I want to eat at a casino, I go to one of them off Strip because they're just easier to get to. I mean, there's a lot of local casinos around. They cater more to the locals than they do the tourists, but yeah, anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and take our break because I want to do the one each hour here. So I've got 10 minutes till the hour. So we'll come back right on top of the hour and we'll take that 10-minute break. Okay.
Okay.
Recording. Okay. So one of the things that's really cool to do with the community visioning is to vision for a project or something that's an event or something that's going to be happening. And there's some things that you need to keep in mind with that. The first thing is many people that haven't experienced the visioning process, doesn't mean they can't do it, but they come into it thinking, okay, we just need to do this one time and then we're done. We can go move on with planning. We don't have to, it's just a perfunctory thing that we have to do, and we get it done, and then we can move on. And so it's really important that you vision multiple times for an event or an experience or a project or whatever it is you're working on. I think 3 times is like the minimum I would do with anything like that. When we vision for our themes for the year, when we're not using the CSL themes. And so we do that about a dozen times. We vision and vision and vision. It takes about 3 months to go through the visioning process for themes, because we really want to see what's calling forth, what's coming forth for us to do, because it's going to be a year-long project. So it's a year's worth of experience. So we really put a lot of effort into that. So it just depends on what it is and how much your people are how much time they're willing to devote to it, how much time you have before the event.
You know, that's also a consideration. So that's one thing. The other thing is that when people come into an experience, especially like I said, if they're not used to visioning, they already come into that experience, that event, that project, whatever, with their own ideas of how it should be. And it's hard to let those go. So what I often do, especially if I have people that are new to visioning, is I'll, like if we have a whiteboard or a piece of paper, or if I'm doing it online, I do it in the chat. We just have people put their ideas out. Everybody sees them, everybody hears it. It gets out there, and then we can let that go. Because kind of like with the visioning thing, if you get something in your mind and you don't write it down, you're just kind of ignoring it because you think it's whatever. These ideas won't go away, and people are just like stuck on it. And then what starts to show up in visioning is them kind of guiding the visioning to their agenda, to their thing that they want to see happening. So give people the space to speak it out. Okay, what kind of ideas have you had already? Let's just put those out there, and then we'll just let them be for right now. Because we might find that some of those ideas are fabulous and are right in alignment with the visioning, and some of them aren't. And we'll be willing to release those. But if you keep it so that like their voice is never heard about whatever it is they want, then it becomes an issue with them. Like, nobody's listening to me. Nobody wants to know what I want about this. They're all just doing this visioning thing, and they don't care what's coming through for what I think it should be or anything like that. So, give people that space to just put it all out there. Especially, like I said, if it's an event or a project or something like that, or maybe a new group or whatever you're forming, a new ministry at the center or whatever it is that is in the works. Just give people a space to be heard. It's really important. Another thing that's important to look at with visioning for projects or events is, and Michael Beckwith asked this question a lot, what gifts or skills or talents do I bring to this project or this event? So it gives people a place to actually go within and think, okay, well, what is mine to do? Maybe I'm a super organizer, and so, I want to lead one part of it. Maybe I'm totally disorganized, but you give me a specific task, I can get it done. Things like that. So people take a inward look at their own abilities and their own areas of expertise, and it gives us a place for that to be heard too. Oftentimes it'll come through as like, I have the willingness to make sure this project, comes off. I'm willing to do whatever is needed, or I want to see this project succeed, that kind of stuff. Some people, it's like, they're the money people. They know how to make everything, set everything up. Some people are the media people that know how to create the marketing packages and things like that. So it gives people a place to see where they fit in to the project. And just because it doesn't come through envisioning doesn't mean that they can't do it, but it does give you a place to say, oh yeah, that's right, I am better at this. I don't have to do the whole project, but I can focus my energy on this particular aspect of it. And so that's a good question to ask when it comes to a project or event or things like that. When we sit down at our center to do anything, any kind of new group comes up or anything like that, we will vision for it. So like, if the youth ministry is going to undertake something like they were doing fundraisers for teen camp, not a couple, well, it's done now, but back in January, February, we were visioning for their fundraisers, like what kind of things could come through for that. Now, what came through in visioning didn't necessarily dictate the fundraisers that came up, but it gave us a feeling like, so one of the things was, it kept coming up was beauty in that visioning, ideas around beauty. And their best fundraiser was one where one of our previous teens is now a florist. And so she made all these beautiful little flower arrangements, and we sold them for Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. And that was a huge amount of the money that we collected for our teens. There were little arrangements, all about $10 to $15 each. And so it wasn't something that was, people were willing to invest it that much money into something to support the teens in there. So
that wound up being a really good thing, because we also had people bring in their old vases so that she had plenty of vases to use. And so you know how it is, you wind up with half a dozen vases around the house, and what do you do with them? So
Right.
it worked out really well. But it came through this idea of beauty. It didn't come through as selling flowers, you know, but it kind of coincided with the vision because of that. So
I'm reminded now to buy myself flowers more often.
yeah.
But I mean, I grow them in the garden, so I guess I enjoy them that way.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love Trader Joe's. I can go in there and get a bouquet of flowers every time I shop, and I always have fresh flowers at the house. We also
Yeah.
we sponsor flowers on Sunday mornings, and so this week I'm sponsoring the flowers. So I didn't buy myself any at Trader's on Friday. I'll get fresh flowers tomorrow at service. So anyway.
Plug myself in.
Okay, any questions about what we've talked about so far with that?
Mm-mm.
Ray?
It's a little bit off. Do CSLs have like sister campuses? I mean, I know that we're all joined, but it seems like our campus, and I don't want to say is one step behind you, but as far as what's going on, it is.
Uh-huh.
And so I think what you're doing is very inspirational, and would be if there was a way to share more of that with our campus. Because boy, you're right there. We're just looking at selling the building. Had an air conditioner, one of them go out last week. I mean, that's one of the reasons. It's beautiful building, beautiful location. 80 years ago, Ernest, picked it out. He was the one that, when it broke ground, was there.
Mhm.
I mean, all of that, and it's all beautiful and wonderful. And yet, yeah, we had a vote, and finally people are realizing, okay, yeah, we're smaller, things are changing. And it's like, all right, your group is doing it.
Mhm.
They're kind of one step ahead.
It's probably there's not a formal thing with CSL, but Reverend Jeff and I went to school together. So did Reverend Bobby at Seal Beach and Namaste. Reverend Scott in Pasadena at Ahia in Pasadena. So we get together and we share things. We share ideas. We talk. We do different things. I've been to your center. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but
I know it's time. I think.
I mean, I did.
I would love to see you there. I know Reverend Jeff is
Uh-huh.
taking sabbatical, which is wonderful. But it's like, okay, he comes back and we have a conversation. It's like,
Yeah, one of these days we'll switch. He'll come up here and speak, and I'll go down there.
There we go.
That kind of stuff, and we do that. So it's more people that we know that we share with, like than anything else. Some ministers are really like islands unto themselves. We had a great connection in ministerial school with these people, and it continues on, and so and we're always willing to help each other. And Reverend Jeff's on sabbatical, so he said, "Do you want to teach visioning?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" I love teaching visioning anyway, so it all worked out well. So
They do have the CSL, if you're on the mailing list for CSL, the email list, they have all kinds of invitations that a lot of their meetings are open. They even have a lunchtime meeting that you can go to, and if you just want to share with other communities, CSL communities.
Yeah. They do different things. I mean, during the pandemic, the executive director at the time, Reverend Sonia, created the Coffee and Conversations, which was about sharing all kinds of ideas. So she would find somebody that was more of an expert in one thing than another. And so, like when I did that, I was there at home office. I shared about tips on making Zoom more interactive, because people were trying to find ways to do it. This was early on. They were trying to teach classes and things like that. And so I teach this class for ministerial school on online communities and learning. So it was a natural thing for me to do that. And so we had different people come in and share their expertise on different areas. And so that worked out really well. But I don't think they're doing that one anymore, but they do have the connection call once a month. But that's generally just information coming out. It's not so much two-way. You know, they'll find somebody, a specific topic, and that person shares their information. There's not a whole lot of interchange of other things there. But and we've
Well-
done some different things. Like when I was working at home office, I worked a lot with the new ministers. And so I had a monthly call for new ministers, and that was one of the things we did. What's working well for you right now? What would you like to share with other people? You know, and so because, you know, they were kind of isolated out there as new ministers, you know, so I did that for a while. I don't know that it's still going on, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a room for more collaboration than what we actually have. We have a ministers listserv, which also people collaborate on that. So they'll share their ideas in classes and, you know, different quotes and things that they found interesting or helpful for their community. So it's on there. And there's also one for practitioners too. So they share on the practitioner listserv through Google Groups. So, all right. So one of the things about visioning for groups is it's important that you gather the information. So, you know, I have had you guys writing your stuff in a journal so you keep it all together, but it's important that you have everybody's visioning about that particular event or project or whatever in one place. And so there are a couple of different ways that we've tried over the years to make that as easy as possible for people. The first thing that we started with was Google Docs. And Google Docs, I don't know why, but we find it's challenging for people sometimes. I'm not really sure what's about it. I know if you don't share it properly, then you have to have a Google account to get into it. But if you know how to share it right, then it's easy. So this is what a Google Doc looks like. This is one that I just created this morning. So this is all it is the visioning questions. I can share this link. I'll show you what it looks like when you share it in a little bit. But the one thing I do to make it a little easier is I color the questions one color, and then when the people go to type their response, you see it's going to show up in another color, which makes it a little helpful. We also would tell people to separate their items by a comma, and when they were done, put a period so that we knew that was the person's done. Now, the nice thing, I'll show you when I share it here, is that you can actually see who made the comment too in Google Docs. So this is one way of doing it here, just the same thing. Another way I've done it in the past is to put it in a table, which kind of makes it a little neater, keeps it a little cleaner there. Now, the thing about Google Docs is you have a place where you can be somebody that can view it, somebody that can comment on it, or somebody that can edit it. I find the commenting is too limiting. So I usually give people the edit rights, but they've got to be careful because they could delete the question or they could delete somebody else's answer. So you have to kind of train people on how to use Google Docs. Let me show you what it looks like when it's actually shared here. So I created it in my Reverend Laura account, but I'm going to open it in my personal account here. Pull that up now.
Is there a way to do speech to text in that document?
You know, I don't see it here in Google. Insert. I've never tried it there. I do speech to text in Word all the time, so I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you can see over here, I'm signed in as my personal account here. And so it shows my my personal one here. It shows the well, it doesn't show it on there. I thought it showed before who created it, which was my other one. But anyway, now when I go to type something in there, spell it right. Oh, yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. It's calling me this anonymous hippo. Earlier it was the anonymous unicorn. Maybe it's when I look at it from the creator point of view, I can see who it is. But anyway, so you can have people do that. That's one way of sharing.
Okay.
visioning. The way that we've started doing it more, we started this because of the problems with Google Docs. People logging in, people messing up the writing from somebody else in the previously, you know, like I'm emailing somebody saying, hey, we need your responses for visioning, and they'll say, I already typed them in, and someone has gone in and deleted them. So, you know, I mean, accidentally, it's not anything malicious, but it's like, you know, just because of low tech skills. So what I started doing, I used this program in school a lot when I was teaching as a computer specialist. I was always having to do a survey about something and gathering information. And so I use a program called SurveyMonkey.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. Now I have the paid version, but you get the free version and do up to 10 questions. The thing about some of it is I don't think you can download your responses in the free version, but you could copy them. You know, you could open up each person's response, copy it, and put it into a Word document. But this is what it looks like for SurveyMonkey. And so people just type in here. There's no way you can mess up anybody else's because it's all individual responses. And when you're done with it, you just click done and it goes in there. And then as the person who created it, I can pull all those responses at once because I see everybody's things. So I've done it. These are just text boxes. They call it a comment box in SurveyMonkey. And so people can type as much as they want in there. It may have a limit of like 500 characters. I'm not really sure, but anyway, that's the way that we usually do it. That's the way that we do it here at our center. I send out the link to my Vision Corps. They type it in. They actually write it on in their journals, and then they go back and type it in. But you could, if you're tech savvy enough, you could have Zoom open and type in this at the same time, if you wanted to. But I don't have that many people that can do that. And if you're doing it something like on a tablet or something like that, then that's really difficult to, you know, you'd have to be toggling back and forth between programs to do it on a tablet or a phone, and that would be, you know, difficult. So we just have people write their responses in their visioning journal and then go back and type it in. Another way that you can do that is in the chat on Zoom. So like we could just type in that first question. Let me get it here. Come on. Why aren't you coming up? So I would type in the question here, and then everybody would write their responses as it comes up, and they just start typing them in as you're visioning. Again, the problem with that is it takes you a little bit more out of the visioning process to be actually typing it on the computer like that, making sure you know, because we're also worried about our spelling and, you know, did I leave a space between the words, you know, and all this stuff. So it kind of I find it takes me out of the visioning process a little bit more, but you could do it at the end. Just put the question in there, say, okay, everybody enter their response for question 1. And everybody does it. And then you download that transcript and you've got the whole thing right there. It's all done quick and easy. Now, I just discovered this morning, Zoom has this thing called polls, which up until now, I don't know if it's because I'm using CSL's education department's Zoom license right now. I haven't tried it on my own personal one because I didn't realize it until, you know, it was time for me to leave the room open for you guys to come in. So I don't know if it'll do it on my personal account. I'm going to try it after this. But I was able to actually put in a poll that oh, come on. Why is it? No, don't do this. Ended. I don't want to share results. Relaunch. Okay, relaunch the poll. So you should be able to see this come up now. And you can type in your answer there. And then at the end,
Okay.
I can share the poll and get the results that way. But again, this would be done while you're in the visioning process. So, you know, I'm not really sure. I honestly think the idea of writing it in the journal, to me, that's less distracting than to type. And I'm a big computer person. I use it all the time, in front of it all the time. I used to journal on my computer with, I just close my eyes, or I put a piece of paper over my screen so I wasn't watching myself, and I would just do stream of consciousness journaling on there. So I've done it a lot, but I find in the visioning process, it takes me out of that space that I'm in, that receptive space, to open my eyes and type it on the screen, where it doesn't do that if I'm doing it on my paper. You know, everybody's a little different, but anyway, so those are just a couple of different ways that you can share, have people share their information and gather it and compile it in one place. You know,
They use the polls in Beyond Limit, you know, the last, you know, do you believe in an afterlife? They would poll all of that. It was really interesting to see how many people in the class did or didn't, you know, have certain beliefs.
Yeah, I use poll when I teach the class on online teaching and so forth. I use polls like almost every week. I have a different poll, but today was the first day I saw that you could have, that it had this advanced button, and I could actually put in a comment box, because before it's been multiple choice. You had to choose one of those answers.
Right.
And this is the first time I've seen it. So I don't know when Zoom updated it, and I don't know if it's just for the professional license. Because like I said, CSL has the professional license. I have a personal license. So I'm going to try that out and, you know, see what shows up with it. The other thing that was nice is I could edit it right here. I didn't have to leave Zoom to edit it, to create the poll. In the past, I used to have to go to the back end of Zoom when you log in on the website to create a poll or edit it. And I could do it right here while I had the Zoom open, which was a nice feature too. So I'm going to share that with my class this week, because it's something that we've been talking about. It was necessary, and it's the first time I've seen it. So anyway, have you guys, anybody else used ways of collecting information that I might not be familiar with? That's that way. I mean, you could do it like having people send you an email with it in there, but then, you know, again, you're going to compile it. You have to copy and paste it into a document, that kind of stuff. So
I don't know any other real ways.
I like it to be spontaneous in a sense, so people don't overthink it, go back and like have to edit it so much. That's why I would love, you know, to be able to do a pause and do just like speech to text in some easy, quick way. And I know that's some of my resistance to past lives being in tech. And it's like, I may have to give some of that up, but
So when we first started the Vision Corps, what we did was the person who led the visioning that week collected the responses, but it was a mad rush of writing. It was like, okay, so you got to where like, you know, like to write the word beauty down, like the first person says beauty, and then 3 people later say beauty, and you put a little check mark next to it. So that helped a little bit, but it was actually physically writing the stuff down on a piece of paper. And so that was, it was doable, and it kept us in the moment. It was spontaneous, and we didn't get people over analyzing it, all of that stuff. But it was a little bit arduous for the person who had to actually physically write it and get that. And like me, I have a little bit of a, between auditory and writing it down. I have you know, sometimes I hear it and it's like, okay, and then I got to think about writing it. And so it was a little bit difficult for me sometimes to do that, just because of the way I learn and receive information. So it was, it took a bit for me to do. It's like, okay, slow down, you know, but, you know, we found after a while we started doing the Google Docs. And again, the problem with that was people would forget to go in and put their information in during the week. And so we didn't have everybody's info. And then it was like, okay, we'd send out emails to remind people, don't forget to go in there. And then I'll say, oh, I did it, but somebody deleted it. And then, so it's, you know, a way around that was I would check it every day and copy and put it into another document. But again, that becomes time consuming. That's why I went to SurveyMonkey, because nobody can change it. Once you submit your stuff, it's there, that's it. Nobody's going to delete it or, you know, anything like that. It's not going to have any problem with user error on there.
And you can do a private Facebook group, you know, and you can do like a whole thread just on one visioning. And then what's cool, and the author can, you know, go in and delete it if they want, but I don't see why they would want to. Then you can go into search So say, you know, you're just curious about other
Mhm.
people getting embraced, like you could put in the word embrace or
Mm-hmm.
embody. And all of the threads will come up where people have just put in embrace, embody, you know, so you can kind of get words and ideas.
Right.
So that would, yeah, I'm not a big Facebook person, but as far as private groups and stuff, it works pretty
Yeah.
well.
You know, my thing was, you know, what's going to be the lowest tech thing for people to do? What's going to make it the easiest for them to do? What's going to make it easy to do on the different devices that people might be using? You know, because that's another consideration. You know, some people, all they use is a tablet. They don't use a computer, or they use their phone only. You know, so, you know, Facebook is something you can use on a tablet and a phone very easily. You know, that would be, and most people in our group, our age group of people, have a Facebook account. You know, but I have people at the center that don't, that absolutely refuse to use it. They get mad because we say, well, it was on Facebook. I'm like, well, I don't use Facebook. No, I'm like, okay, well, okay. Anyway,
Yeah, Meetup is another good one if you've ever used Meetup.
yeah.
People can have a lot of conversations and stuff on there.
I haven't used the conversation thing, but I'm actually going to set up another. I've had a Meetup account before, but I'm going to set up one specific for the events that we're going to offer at our center. That's one of the ways I'm hoping to get out to the secular people a little bit better. I'm hoping it's still as used as much as it is. I don't really know anybody that does anything on Meetup, so I'm not real sure, but I thought it's worth it to put it out there for the first time.
After the pandemic, I don't know what happened with Meetup, unless everybody just was doing virtual. But
Well, there's a lot of virtual events on there too. I you know, I put in my keywords like meditation, spirituality, you know, different things like that. And so I'll get a pop-up that says, you know, you might be interested in this group, that kind of thing. And a lot of them are online. So.
Yeah, I was surprised when a friend mentioned that they were looking for a group that did board games and they went to Meetup. Like, that made sense.
Yeah, I have a friend that found bicycle groups.
Great.
He's a cyclist. And so
Mhm.
he found groups in the local groups that he goes out like two different days a week. He goes and rides with two different groups that he met on Meetup.
Yeah, and I found
it's
out
big.
my sound bath was on Meetup by someone, but I'm not an administrator.
Mhm.
So people would comment, oh, me and my husband are gonna come. It's like, you know, somebody needs to answer that, or could I be made an admin so that
Yeah.
it's like, I wasn't even aware this had been created. I mean, I really love, since starting this, that the center's really embraced. So the sound bath, they put up their own CSL thing for the first time, and it's on there. And recently just found out, because somebody was on sabbatical, that it was on Meetup, and it was like, okay. And so, you know, we're looking at that too, but there's things to be worked out,
Mhm.
certainly. Because I'm going, the reason I found it is because I was going to set one up, and then I see that there's one, and it's like, okay, if I can be made the admin or be part of that, then I can set up classes, so I can put descriptions that I want, you know, make sure that they're all approved. But you know, that's the only issue that I see with it for a center, is like, then who kind of watches over it, and then who has access to it for the
Right.
different.
Yeah, and people asking questions on things like that and they don't get a response, you lose them. You know,
Oh yeah.
you got to really respond to people. So you got, if you're going to do any of that kind of stuff, you got to.
Oh, and one of the
People
companies
will-
was asking, you know, if I could come facilitate.
Mhm.
It's like, and if I hadn't gone into our administrator and said, hey, I'm thinking of setting this up, and they looked and they go, well, it is set up, and it's like, oh, and here's an email, I think, and like, oh, please forward that to me. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Okay, so the one other thing that you can do when you're doing a group visioning is it deals a little bit with the idea of discernment, where we're actually trying to not mentally figure it out, but try to get more of a deep connection between everything that's being revealed in visioning, because, you know, it can be out there and it's like you don't really see all of the stuff, but when you take it in and you sit with it, you begin to sense a feeling or a tone or a theme that's coming through. And so when we're doing community visioning, asking the questions, you know, what themes are coming through after everybody's reported all their stuff? What themes did you hear? like you may hear the color yellow repeated 6 times, or you may get a sense of freedom that is open through different ways. Like maybe there was a song with the word freedom in it. And maybe somebody was saying, I was driving in my car with the top down and I just felt like I was free. You know, and so you start to get that sense, oh, well, maybe these 2 things are representative of freedom. And so you start to get that sense of what it is as you're coming through. But it takes a little bit of time, and you just kind of go, you ask the questions, and just, you know, whoever's leading the visioning, just ask the questions, you know, what is the feeling tone? You know, what is the tone that's here? You know, oftentimes the tone is infinite possibility or excitement or beauty or things like that that's coming through. I mean, sometimes you'll get a tone like, oh my God, this is too much to do. But that generally has to do more with somebody's ego than it actually coming through spirit, because, you know, spirit doesn't give us things without giving us the ability to do them too. So asking those questions about, you know, what is the theme of it? What is the feeling tone of it? You know, what commonalities are we seeing here? You know, what's coming through? What did you notice as we reported the visioning? When we do a visioning session with a group like that, we go around asking each question. Start with question 1, and everybody goes around the circle and reports what they got for question 1. Try to keep away from analyzing it or figuring it out, or, you know, some people will get in the story, well, I don't know why I saw this, but maybe it reminds me of this time I was 3 years old and this was happening, you know, because you get into this whole tangent. I like, you know, my friend that co-facilitated with me, she goes, just the facts. That's all we want, just the facts. Just put down, take the word that you that came through, because, you know, it'll take over the time that you have together. And some people will get frustrated with that, you know, nothing else, the facilitators. And so just have people report what, you know, what came through without trying to analyze it or figure it out. And so, you know, again, just go around, then you go to the question 2, and you go around question 3, you go around and so forth. And then after you've gone through all the questions, and just like I said, then you ask, you know, what are you hearing here? What's the theme that's coming through? What's the feeling tone? What's your sense of this project? You know, that kind of stuff. And that I would always capture as the people were talking about, because they're not going to remember that to go back and put on their document. And so I would capture it in the moment, the tone of the what people came up with when we were asking that question. So.
Is that at the end, like the tone then after they've listened to everybody else answer it as well?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
after all the questions have been gone through. So it's like after everybody has reported everything that they was revealed during visioning, then we ask those questions, you know, what is your sense of this? What's the feeling of this? What is, you know, what are you noticing here?
And then that's where the facilitators become a secretary.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily in the other parts, because people will put it on the form and send it in.
Yes.
And then they'll look at it again, of course.
Yeah. And like I said, when we originally started, that was probably even before Google Docs. So we just wrote them down as they were coming. And it was really tough on the facilitator to get all that information down. I'm not sure we captured everything all the time, because, you know, some people speak faster, some, you know, it's like, you know, where they'll say something that they didn't write down, but it came through, and then you ask them to repeat it, and they're like, well, I don't remember what I said, you know, that kind of thing. So it's like, you know, you know, that was the way we did it originally, though, was recorded everything as people were reporting it, and then went to the theme. You know, what are the themes? What are the commonalities? What's happening? What do you see? What are you feeling it through this?
That must be so exciting to start hearing the repetitiveness of themes.
It is.
And I know at Mile High they do their weekly meeting, and they have a practitioner or somebody takes down all the notes of what everybody has said.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go into like a feeling, what's the feeling about all of this, and then they'll do a treatment.
Right.
Is it possible to like take everybody's information and then kind of do a treatment that this is growing and expanding, and more information is coming in during dream and sleep activity or during the day, and we planted the seed? Have you done that?
Yeah, we always do a treatment at the end. you know?
Cool.
I mean,
Cool.
what I've done with you guys so far is I gave you that template, because if you didn't know how to do treatment, that will at least help you. But again, our treatment really focuses on the release and the embrace.
Yeah.
Because that's the work. The vision is already fully formed. It's the release and the embrace, or the embody or become, that
Right.
kind of stuff. That's where our work is. And so we'll do a treatment about the feeling tone of those two questions, what the responses came from that thing. So we'll do a treatment on that, and that's kind of like a collective treatment about, the things that need to be released and embraced in there.
So that's really more than a benediction.
Oh yeah,
Taking
yeah.
a deep breath.
yeah. It's done after all of the discussion. So like I'll do a little bit of a closing after the visioning. I kind of like, okay, we're going to take this, we're going to commit to this vision, we're going to let this vision come alive in us, and we're going to, that's kind of the benediction of the visioning session. But then after all the discussion is done, we wrap it up with a treatment. And generally we'd have the person who was leading the visioning do that. Generally it starts off, well, our vision core, you have to have taken this class before you can be on our vision core. So everybody has a sense of what visioning really is. And then we just ask people to volunteer to lead, the next week or whatever. And, if they're comfortable leading, but they're not comfortable treating, then one of us will do the treatment. Somebody else will do a treatment for it. So, it just depends, because I like to encourage people to practice leading visioning. There's something different about it, especially when you get into the visioning and you hear a different question come through. That's really powerful. When spirit guides you to ask a question that isn't part of the normal form, you're really in the visioning, and the visioning is coming through as a separate question that actually, I find that is one of the most powerful things. It leads us to responses that you would have never even considered, like really opening up a different place inside of us. Excuse me.
I talk about Oprah all the time. I love Oprah. I used to watch her when I came home from high school. That was my first spiritual therapy kind of thing. And she told a story. It's on YouTube. She does all these commencement speeches. And she said she grew up on a farm with her grandmother. And they made their own clothes. They grew their own food. Her grandmother would wash their clothes in a boiling pot of water outside, like the Beverly Hillbillies. And she said she stood there and she had a vision, because she stood there watching her grandmother do all of this, and she knew there was a better path, a better way. Like it didn't even have words. It was a total immersing in the feeling and the knowing, and it created her life, because she said, I could never have imagined this. And I'm just like, wow, it just really, like, she just knew the vision came through her. Yeah. It's like, if you choose to accept this, what's the thing, if you choose to accept this mission, she stepped into it in that moment.
Yeah, she's had Michael Beckwith on her show several times. She really,
oh yeah,
really embraces his
to the
work.
Agape Center, I think. She goes there. So yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty powerful.
To think that, Michael Beckwith, he's the one that really introduced this to CSL. And I know that he did that visioning in his living room with Reverend Coco and I think his brother, a small group of people. And he really goes deep into visioning and shares that. And I think that's one reason too that he's branched off. I know you were talking about going to the main office, and I think there's a bit of a push with CSLs now into what might be considered is a little bit more mystical experience. And I'm not sure, but I think that it's just really interesting that he used this whole visioning process. And it's one of those things that kind of pushed him to do something. He'd been a practitioner, right? And then I know that he was a minister and was called to a center. In fact, it's not far from here. And then there's a whole group that ended up not really accepting him because of his color more than anything.
Yeah.
And it really surprised him and, kind of set him back in a sense, but it really drove him. He knew that there was that he was meant for this, and was called to it, and the whole group in a sense was the accountability partners and helped push him
Mhm.
into that role and that leadership. And I think there's a beautiful part of this, doing this in groups.
Yeah, he was a science mind minister, science mind practitioner. He was teaching at Holmes Institute. He did a candidate at a church, and they were considering him, and he was going to a ministers' meeting, and he heard the head of the organization at the time. He walked in. He was walking into the building, and there was a window open, and they were meeting in this room, and he could hear the head of the organization telling the people, "We've got a big problem here. We can't have this black man leading our church." And it was like,
Oh my
that was a
gosh.
huge thing for him. I mean, he walked into the room right after that, and
It was a big deal for CSLs too, right? Didn't
Yeah.
Ernest Holmes get involved and say, "Excuse me"?
Ernest Holmes didn't get involved in that. It was later. Ernest Holmes was dead in 60, but
That's that's why in my mind I was going, wait a minute. Well,
Yeah.
in
no,
spirit.
Ernest Holmes did. Science of Mind magazine always published the names of all the centers, so people could find a center. It was always in the back of the magazine. And somebody somewhere along the line decided that all the black churches needed to be at the end of the list. And of course, there was a big
Oh my
uproar.
God.
So Ernest Holmes that next Sunday went to the biggest black church in the movement and told them all off, told off the people that were, that had done that. So,
well, I mean, it's about inclusion,
Yeah.
Science of Mind is all about inclusion. And, Michael Beckwith even said in his book, he knew that center was not a fit.
Right.
He said he could feel it. It wasn't a fit. But, I think everything happens for a reason. Maybe his soul needed to clear those patterns
Yeah.
within himself so that
Absolutely.
he was free. He was free of that. So.
He eventually found that CSL was too confining for him. It was limiting him more than it was expanding him, as far as his center and everything else. So, I mean, he's got I don't know what it is now because they had to, I think they lost the lease on their building or something like that. I can't remember what happened, but last I heard, they were meeting at a theater in Santa Monica.
Just like Ernest did.
Yeah, so, but he lost a lot of his people, but he was having like 10,000 members.
Yeah, they're
Like,
still
big.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're open back up for one service, meditation and service, the 11 a.m. middle service, but still online. He does 3 different services.
Yeah.
So it's nice for me because I can wake up in the morning, and I normally go to the Agape Ministers anyway at 8 a.m. I mean, there's a wonderful story, and I didn't realize this could happen, but there was a CSL minister from Oakland, right, who now is the lead minister in Salt Lake in Utah, Salt Lake City, I believe. Cindy.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had to go to Rev Jeff and go, how did that happen? He was on our boards. He knew exactly who I was talking about. And I went, that surprised me as well. But it's like, I guess she had to take a few more classes and then of course go through the boards. So,
It's called affiliating. So ministers from different organizations can affiliate with CSL. They have to take a certain number of classes. I worked on that whole thing to get the classes down for them. So there's 6 classes they have to take unless they already have the equivalent and that kind of stuff. But yeah, they affiliate. So yeah, Agape now has satellite centers. There's one in Oakland where I know Reverend Joan Stedman was she was on Michael's original visioning too. And she was the minister there for a while. I don't know if she still is or not, but yeah, anyway, he's done wonderful work and his, his books and stuff have certainly transcended religion. His books are really, really powerful. I love his book, Spiritual Liberation, which I created a class on that because I just love that book so much. And, anyway. Okay, one other thing before we do our visioning, or we're gonna take a break in a minute too, anyway, and then we'll come back and vision, is about the release and the embrace. So remember, everything that's done in visioning is done within us personally. All the transformation has to happen in there. And so there's a tendency in visioning with a group, we'll ask, instead of what must I release, we'll ask, what do we need to release, or what needs to be released? And what I found that has happened is that that takes the responsibility away from me. If I say, what must we release? And I don't know, lack comes through. Well, I can figure, well, that's theirs to do. That's the other part of the we. It's not this part of the we, it's the other part of the we. Because it takes away a little bit of that personal responsibility when we change that pronoun, just that little bit. I mean, you can have a sense of, yes, this is mine to do also, because I'm part of the we. But I really watch myself with using we, like when I'm speaking on the platform and so forth, because again, I don't necessarily have to do my work if I'm talking about the we. Oh, I'll just leave that up to the other people to do, you know. But when we put that personal pronoun in there, that can really change it, because again, all the work for the vision to be revealed needs to be done personally for us, you know. And so you know, now Reverend Jeff has here in the list, he says what must be released, what must be embraced, and then number 4 was what must we, the community or the group, become. It's not as bad for the becoming, but again, you still want to watch that. And I think I told you the story about going to the vision training, the original vision training, and they had a community they were talking about that kept saying that we are a loving, open, inclusive community. And then they weren't finding that people were staying. People would come to the center and then they'd come for one service and they'd leave. And they're like, well, why aren't people staying? We're an open, loving, inclusive community. And then they started looking at themselves, and they weren't. They were standing in little cliques around the place, not welcoming the people that came there, not being inclusive, not inviting them in. So what they were called to become was something that they were resisting. And so, you know, because of that whole not taking personal responsibility for it, you know, it's like, okay, well, if we are to become, if, you know, we're open, loving, and inclusive, then I got to do something different than stand here with my friends and talk. And so, you know, just kind of watch it. And you have to read the group too. You know, sometimes, especially like with the secular things, if they're not into personal transformation, then saying, what do I have to release, or what do I have to become or embody, might be a little scary for them. You know, so starting it off with a little differently, you know, so, you know, it's just, again, it's knowing what is our personal work to do and actually being willing to do it, and to make the vision happen, to bring it into its fullest.
Jack Addington, do you know Jack Addington? He wrote The Perfect Power.
Mm-hmm.
He and his wife Cornelia they kind of did this. He talked about how the people helping him, all the helpers in his church, just weren't matching the energy, you know, and so they had to like really ask God, you know, to bring in a whole new group and energy and everything that would serve everyone, and including the people, the greeters and the people who did the offerings, like all of that just wasn't matching up.
That's what I'm working with right now. I have very, very lovely people who can be very off-putting. And you know, so it's like I've got this one lady, just a love, but she's not clean. She has a lot of cats, and she comes in covered with cat hair, and her hair is sticking up in all different directions. She's a sweetheart. I have no problem with her, but I can't have her greeting people, because that's what they see, and it's like, oh, okay, you know, I mean, that's not the first impression I want people to have of our center. And so it's a challenge. It's like I'm doing my work in consciousness, because I need to redirect some of these people to what's best for them, and bring in the people that, you know, are going to be the face that we want to see, the people that we want to, you know, attract to our center. So you know, it's a, you know, it's a balance. You know, as a minister, you have to actually begin to look at some things that you really don't want to. I mean, like I said, lovely, lovely lady, do anything for me, likes to greet people. Yeah, I can't have it. You know?
We have a special
could still
dog
be at the
for
snack
you.
table.
Yeah.
What?
I can't have her near food either, because it's
Well,
cat.
I know when I said that, I mean, you know, you can greet people at that door.
Yeah,
right?
you know, I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know where to go with you yet, but you know, like I said, sweetheart. But you know, and do I have that conversation? You need to make sure you're clean, and I mean, I have the conversation with my teams. I
Yeah,
haven't had it individually with people. I haven't had to do that yet, so.
maybe there's an animal ministry.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, pet adoption,
Uh-huh.
like that, pet
Bless-
blessing.
Yeah,
services.
please help me with the pet blessing that we're gonna do in, whatever
There's
month.
something about, yeah, when you attract the new people, finding out what it is that attracted them and maybe what their needs are. I
Mhm.
know when I walked into my center, it felt like home. I'd heard about it for a long time. There'd been events, and it was like friends had gone, and I went there just by myself. But I walked in the door, there's a broken drinking fountain. It's an old one, like in the schools, all metal, but it's broken with a sign on it that it's broken. And that's right in the doorway, the first thing you see.
Broken. Yeah.
And I said, guys, and of course, as a new person, you have to be kind of careful with that. But it's like, this is the first thing I'm seeing is like, this is broken down. It's
Right.
like, I got the image and it got embraced. And there was then a committee. And now there's a brand new refrigerated bottle refilling station there. The money was raised, obviously they understood it, but how long that had been there broken,
Right,
I don't know, but sometimes it takes that new set of eyes too to see that, where you just get used to it. You get used to the little clicks, you used to it doing a certain way. And I guess, I'm going back to Rick Warren's book a little bit. Your world becomes kind of small and you get used to doing it. And then you have a core group. And sometimes there's a resentment that sets in that core group because they're always asked to do it and you lose the enthusiasm. And I think that's partly where you need the new people coming in too, to
Yeah.
invigorate these groups and bring in a slightly different vision if that's allowed.
Mhm.
I think that's, I don't want to say the trick, but yeah, there seems to be a real importance in that. If we're saying that we want to grow, and I think all our congregations do, we want to attract people, not that we're just attracting. Yes, it's a business and it's important to understand that, but because there's also a need. So how do we fulfill that need? And by doing so, then it does grow the facility.
Yeah, the other thing I've been working with is, when you look, and you can take a picture of any CSL pretty much, you're gonna see a bunch of older people. And then we have, the leadership council sits there and says, well, how come you're not attracting younger people? Because we don't represent younger people, so it's like, okay, so we have to begin to build it. So we're getting ready to create signs and pictures and things like that in the lobby. And I said, we need to have visual representation of who we are becoming, not who we have been. Because who we have been has kept us at 35 to 50 people. But who we're becoming, make it a little more attractive to people. So that kind of stuff. All right, let's take a break and then we will come back and do our visioning for a group. So I've got 10:59, so let's come back at 10 after the hour. Okay.
I'm so excited for Valerie. I can really feel something is going to happen with all this for you being in New Zealand. I just feel like you're a receiver for that area. And you know what I mean? That you're receiving this for a lot of people.
Oh, interesting. The last class I took, they had in a previous class had a student who was in New Zealand. And I'm like, oh my God, because I have yet to find my tribe here. And so I'm like, give me that name. And they never did. And I'm like, oh gosh, I want to get this started, but I can't. So I am visioning it, but I'm actually finishing my bachelor's. I'll graduate in November. And so I almost kind of think it's like I'm meant to finish that first. But yeah, I kind of feel the same. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. I think there's definitely a wave of it, but there's not a collective. There's the mindset, but it's all individual. There's not a collective that I have found, a church that pulls everybody kind of together. It's more meetup groups actually, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I want to
yeah,
see.
we'll
I
see
want
what
to know
happens, but
what's
they-
going on. I want to keep in touch.
Okay. I tried to find you on Facebook. If you can find, I couldn't find you, but if you want to try to find me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you an invite.
Okay, yeah, do. Definitely.
Okay, so we're going to do our visioning for our community. And again, write your stuff down in your journal so that you have it right there. And I put the link to the Survey Monkey in the
Oh.
chat, but I'm also going to send it to you in an email, so you don't have to worry about it right now. With the recording from the class, so that everybody gets it at the same time. So that you can actually put your information in there. But if you might want to do it right after class, because I'm going to wait to send the email until I have the video uploaded, and it takes a little bit of time to do that. But if you wanted to do this right after class, then just go ahead and copy that link, and then you can go into this survey because it's ready to accept answers.
Okay.
So we're going to do our visioning here. And again, it's pretty much just like visioning for yourself, except we're focusing more on our community. Now, your community can be whatever it is for you. It could be our collective community that we've got right here of the students and the participants in this class. Maybe like for you, Valerie, it's your community that you're building in New Zealand, you know, or Ray, the community that you're being attracted to participate in, however that works for you, so that, you know, we're seeking clarity and direction about community, basically, about community, what community means for us, and so forth. So, so everything is pretty much the same, except we do have the word we instead of I in number 4. What must we become to be the avenue through which this vision is fulfilled? But the rest of them are pretty much the same as what they've been. So let's go ahead and, oh yeah, Beth.
So what community are we honing in on? I'm kind of confused.
You know, like I said, it can be different for each person.
Okay.
You know, whatever, you know, if you're, you know, your community there, you're Mile High, right?
Yeah.
Could be that, it could be the community you have there, it could be this class community that we have here. Whatever it feels like for you at this moment.
Okay.
You know, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of the community in my center here. But you know, there's no separation with any of this stuff. It doesn't matter whether, you know, your little focus is on a specific community or whether it's on the group of people in this class. You know, it doesn't matter at all. Spirit doesn't care. It's what this idea of community is. So, okay. All right, so let's just turn within and begin to connect with that space within our own being. That place of consciousness, that place of connection. You might call this your heart center. This is that place from which everything emanates. And it's from this place that I know the presence of unconditional love, where that love is pouring itself forth through me and as me. It is the guiding and directing force of my life. A love so powerful it cannot be contained, a love so magnificent that it can only create more of itself. This unconditional love sees no lack or limitation, but sees itself expanding and growing and becoming more and more. throughout this entire community. It shows up as freedom, as peace, as prosperity, connection, and wholeness. And it is continually creating more and more of itself through each and every individual that this community serves. And so knowing that this is the only truth, we ask the question, what is the highest vision of our community? What is the highest vision of our community? What does it look like, feel like, and sound like? This highest vision of our community. What does it look like, feel like, and sound like? What must be released in order for this vision to unfold? What must be released in order for this vision to unfold? What must be embraced in order for this vision to be fulfilled? What must be embraced in order for this vision to be fulfilled? What must we become to be the avenue through which this vision is fulfilled? What must we become to be the avenue through which this vision is fulfilled? Is there anything else to be known at this time? Is there anything else to be known at this time? So allowing everything that has been revealed to simply be within our consciousness. We take that moment to commit to living this vision, to allowing this vision to manifest itself through us, to be an open and receptive vessel through which the impress of spirit is tangibly felt. And we give great thanks for everything that's been revealed here and the willingness of each person to be that conduit, to be that place through which spirit shows up. And so we just allow this time to close, knowing it is perfect. We let it be. And so it is. All right. So let's take a moment and journal about anything that's come up, anything that you want to capture regarding that.
Okay, so we're gonna go around and share what was revealed. You know, if something came through to you and you are uncomfortable sharing it, that's fine. You know, sometimes things come through that we're like, I need more time with that before I'm willing to actually even say it aloud. So, you know, if that happens, that's totally good. If nothing came up for you for the question, just say nothing came up for me. That happens too. And so we'll go around with each question. This is how we would do it in a vision circle, and share what came through. Just the facts. We don't have to elaborate on anything. So I'll begin. The first question is, what is the highest vision of our community? And I just had a stream of words coming through: connection, joy, love, wisdom, sharing and growing, and deepening a mystical consciousness. We'll just go around in the circle that you're on here. So Beth, you're next. Just number one.
For the vision, that's the part.
Yeah, the highest vision of the community.
Light, God's light, channel, instrument, flowing.
And Valerie? Oh, just took a drink, sorry.
It's interesting because I think Beth planted that seed in my head, and I just got visions of a car like gas, brake, gas, brake, gas, brake. And I just kind of sat with that and just accepted it, that that's the way it is right now. So
And
that's
Ray?
kind of in terms of finding my tribe.
Good, thank you. Ray?
Embracing, and in just encouraging full potential.
Then we had that sub question: what does it look like, feel like, sound like? And I got laughing, joyful people, lots of activity, music, and dancing. Beth? Beth, you're muted. You can just leave yours unmuted for this part.
Okay. I had some background noise. Yellow, walking on the beach in the wet sand, surf, foam, bell, chimes, sound.
Valerie?
Mine just felt like once I kind of laughed at that visual and then kind of said, okay, just almost sit back in the seat of the car and relax.
Hey, Ray?
You know, I love that, the joy, the uncontained joy, the dancing, the expression, self-expression without caring, you know. I mean, there's a sense of liberation, freedom.
And the next question: what must be released in order for this vision to unfold? I got old ways of being, ideas of playing small. And then I had this sense of giggling joyfulness. You know, sometimes what we release isn't necessarily things that we need to get out of our life, but it's releasing some magnificent thing that's in us. And so there was this, like, I could just see little children giggling and joyful. Beth?
I have to, what needs to be released is everything that has to do with my old life, identity, home, just the old.
And Valerie?
Fear, like as soon as I kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to relax into and let it all be, I got, because I'm conflicted. Oh, well, it's facts. Like if it were like, then I saw dividers, and there's like, okay, there's my life here, there's my kids back in the States, and I just saw these dividers, and it was all fear, like, okay, I can't have everything I want, it's either this or that. So it was fear, like, and limiting myself.
Thank you. Ray?
With release, I guess I was thinking more of community and just releasing the past, any preconceived notion of how things should be, just going with the flow and thinking about community and new people and thinking about, yeah, I mean, I can impose what I feel somebody needs, but what are their needs? And I think that's the question that I need to ask more. It's like meeting someone, and I don't mean to sound like judgment when you say meeting somebody where they're at, but what does somebody need? Why did they show up?
Thank you. What must be embraced in order for this vision to be fulfilled? A new way of being together, openness to non-church events and people, small groups / big ideas. That was really together, small groups, big ideas. Beth,
Okay, more love, compassion, joy, fun, articulating, and root cellar.
Valerie,
Releasing the limited, because I got into that divided space where I can't have everything. The release is to let go of that limitation.
and Ray,
Thriving community, but from the level of each and every individual.
okay, thank you. What must we become to be the avenue through which this vision is fulfilled? I got open and available, accepting of new people, try new ways of doing old things. Beth,
Okay, I got sailor, like the Navy, sailor, and made me think of a person I know who had a military career. Her name is Donna.
Valerie,
Actually, I have to be honest, I didn't get anything. I was still kind of focused on, because it that limit, I just got hit kind of with fear. And so I kind of got stuck
no problem.
in trying to release it.
Ray,
Walk the talk. Doing our own work. By example, planting the seeds, but it's by our example. And just that overall feeling of love.
thank you. And anything else wanting to be known at this time? I got catch the excitement and watch it blossom into something vibrant and thriving. Beth,
Okay, enjoy the process and secular.
Valerie,
Same, still got stuck, was just grappling with limits.
Ray,
Seeing all as family, and each as personally a gift, an individual gift to me and to the community.
righty.
Were we not doing embody in this one?
What's that?
We didn't do the embody part.
No, did it have everybody in there? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I did it anyway.
Oh, no, you didn't have that question in there. What must be embraced and what we must become, but he didn't have embody. Interesting.
Oh, become, I guess that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Embody. Was embody one of them?
No.
Before? Oh.
It was before.
Become.
I think it's like we've had the word, but it might be like become / embody
Yeah.
or embrace / become embody. I don't know which one, but
Okay.
yeah, he didn't have it on the questions for this one.
Become.
Okay, so to share this. So as you guys were journaling, I typed in my answers into the Survey Monkey thing, so it's pretty easy. Just type them in, and then at the bottom, click done. And there we go. That's all there is to that. And I'll come back here. So like I said, you can either copy the link right now or wait till you get the email. It'll probably be an hour or so before the email's there, because it takes 20 minutes or so to upload that. It's such a long video with the 3-hour class on it. So I'll get that uploaded and send that email out. All right, let's take a look at our homework for next week. Well, before that, we've got time here. I was thinking we were done. I was thinking we were done at 11:30, but no, we're not done till 12. So how was that? How was the visioning for something outside of yourself?
I don't think I actually got outside of myself.
Well, again, it's all about what happens with us. I mean, that we think we're visioning for something outside, but it's actually, it can only come through us. So, regardless of what the focus is.
I'm just intrigued by the word sailor.
Yeah.
and I got beach. So I'm like, you know, you do start to read into it. Am I supposed to go down to San Diego? Because I'm in Northern California. Root cellar, that would be kind of like the root cellar. And there's like huge Navy down there. You know, maybe the Navy wants to start visioning. I don't know. And yellow, it's sunny there all the time. I'm being told to move. I'm ready to relocate. So I don't know. I mean, you shouldn't do that, right? We shouldn't read into it.
Well,
Oh,
it's difficult not to when it's something that's so intriguing. But also be open to it showing up in lots of different ways. You know, like you said, maybe it's somebody you know who used to be a sailor and they come back into your life for some reason. You know, or maybe it has nothing to do with the person and has more to do with standing on the deck of a ship with the wind blowing around you, that sense of freedom. You imagine being out in the ocean with that, with nothing around you like that. Not much more, well, other than confined to a ship, you know, because for your safety, but that's pretty free to feel that the wind from the ocean is so powerful and the waves and everything. So you just don't know how it'll show up.
Yeah, you know that I'm the captain of my ship, the master of my soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that could be what it is right there. I said our tendency is in our logical, ego-driven mind to try to figure out what that means and try to make it a meaning to it. And you know, we people in spiritual centers often have a tendency to assign meaning to things that just because we're trying to figure it out all the time. You know, it's like, oh, I picked up a feather, that must be my grandmother's communicating with me or whatever. You know, you hear it all the time from people, and it's because we're trying to figure it all out and put it all together and make it seem like, you know, something more than what it was. And, you know, sometimes a feather is just a feather, you know?
Oh, it was really funny because I got a receipt and it was like 22, 22, 22. And the cashier said to me, it's like, wow, maybe you should go play the lotto or something. Look how all this, and she's the one. I wouldn't have made the connections.
Right.
So it seemed to be more of a message for her, perhaps. I don't know. I know when people say, oh my gosh, I saw this eagle or whatever. What does that mean? I go, wow, you saw a beautiful eagle. I mean, it's like whatever meaning we want to attach to it. And yet there also may be more.
Right.
Open to that. But it is interesting how we like to find that. Just like we're always looking for faces and things, you know. I think that might be part of our survival, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a book out there, and I can't remember who wrote it. I think her name was Rhonda something or other. Anyway, it's about like 9 energy things that you can use. And I remember doing a series of talks on it. And she starts off the book talking about, you know, like when we were kids and you're looking for Volkswagens. You know, we used to play slug bug. Yes. So if you saw a Volkswagen, you punch your brother or your sister. You know, that was what it was. But it's like once you put your attention onto something, you see it all over the place. And so it's like that whole thing of, you know, where we put our focus, you know, that you know, what we put our focus on, we attract into our lives. And so it's like, okay, you know, sometimes it's just a Volkswagen, you know, sometimes it doesn't have any meaning whatsoever. And sometimes it does. And it just depends on, you know, if having something like that happen leads you to a greater understanding of something about your life, then it was well served, you know. But trying to force something to fit into a mold to make it more meaningful to you can be a tricky place to go down, you know. And we have a tendency to do that.
Well, Beth, thank you for that because it reminded me of a memory. I went to San Diego on my own, rented a sailboard, sailed across that bay and came back. And, you know, just such a beautiful day. And then met a lot of people on the beach, you know, that, you know, it's wonderful when you kind of meet people in those situations where maybe they're on vacation, they're enjoying the beach, or they're open, you can have these conversations. And it's like, you kind of feel like you're immediately friends, like a lot of those cards are down. But just thank you for that beautiful memory and having how it might relate to community.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And I certainly got, you know, through and as me.
So one of the things that you're asked to do in your homework is to lead a visioning. If you have someone else you can vision with, it'd be great. If you don't, you can leave it for yourself, but to try that. So what kind of questions do you have about leading a visioning? Reverend Jeff gives you some tips in here. Let me find that page. On page 52 in your manual. Pull it up so we can all see it. So open with an invocation. Now, if you're not comfortable with an invocation, open up by breathing. You know, kind of, I mean, the way I just did it for this visioning session was, you know, just like bring your attention to your heart center, your chest. Feel the air moving in and out of you. Just, it's a way of getting people centered in the moment. And so it doesn't have to be a formal invocation, you know, it doesn't have to, you know, I think sometimes for people that haven't done much praying out loud, when they hear somebody else pray, they think, oh my God, I could never do that. You know, or I don't know the right words. I can't get the prayer voice. I don't, you know, all of that stuff. And just, you know, I encourage you just to set that stuff aside, because it really, just let it be what it needs to be for you. And when I teach my class for Holmes Institute now, generally 70–80% of the people are ministerial students. There are people that are just getting the master's, but I can't do invocation for people that are just getting the master's or just getting the master's degree. They need something that's different than that. They're not there for church stuff. It's for the master's in consciousness studies. And so so I do a centering. I just bring people into their bodies and breathing and so forth. So it's just something very simple like that. You know, let's just take a moment and breathe together. And that's all, that can be enough. And just give yourself some space. Don't be worried about it feeling like you're giving too much time. You need to say something. That's one of the tendencies is, you know, space is needed in this process. You know, open up the space to allow things to come through. I don't find that I need to time my periods between my questions. It just kind of feels natural. You know, I just let it be a natural process of where when I'm ready to ask the next question, I do. But you can set a timer if you wanted to. That way, you know, you're given 2 minutes for people to listen intently. You know, 2 minutes feels like a long time for somebody that isn't used to doing this. So, you know, whatever it needs to be for you. You know, if you have a partner in your life that you want to do it with, I have friends who vision for everything. They're going to go on vacation, so they vision for that. They're just buying a new house right now, so they've been visioning for the perfect house for themselves for about 2 months now. And it was interesting. Everything that they thought they wanted in the house, when they walked into this house, it was like, oh my God, this is our house. And it's like, it didn't have any of this stuff. In fact, there were things that were contrary to what they wanted in that house, but it just feels perfect for them. So, but they had that sense of it because they'd been doing that work in consciousness for that. So, you know, if you have a group of people that are working on something, ask them, you know, would you like to do this process I'm learning right now? You don't have to tell them what the name of it is. You know, if the visioning becomes too, you know, woo-woo for them, just, you know, hey, this is a process where we ask questions with the intention of hearing an answer. You know, that's all we need to say. Are you interested in opening up to that and seeing what happens, you know? I mean, generally it takes about 12 to 15 minutes to do a visioning. So again, we center in oneness, anchor in love, you know, read your audience. If anchoring yourself in love might be too much for your person that you're visioning with, just leave those words out. Just, you know, anchor in our bodies, you know, attach ourselves to that. And then of course, you know, ask the questions. You know, in the manual here, they're all written out for you, but you can ask them in any order. It doesn't, there's no reason for any particular order in there, except maybe the last one. You know, that's kind of a culminating thing. Is there anything else that wants to be revealed? oftentimes I find with anything else, something like release will come up, which is, 3 questions ago. But it's like, oh, there was something hanging out there that I didn't feel at the time that has come through. And then, the committing to the vision. Again, we're open to the fulfillment of everything that's been revealed. Just give thanks, and you can just say, thank you for everything. Thank you for this time. Thank you for sitting here and doing this with me. And then I like the journaling part. I really do. I think that's important to capture that sense and feel of it. And then, share it with each other. Share what's been revealed. Again, read your audience and give people the option of not saying something that's too personal for them. They may not be willing to reveal everything, and just give them the permission up front. Then nobody feels funky about it. They don't come up with something and say, well, I can't say that out loud. It's like, okay, no worries. We just go on. There's always in every class that we do, there's the right to pass. You don't have to share if you're not willing to, if whatever it is too personal, it's come up and it's just like, I haven't worked through it enough to actually say it out loud. So I'm not going to say it. Questions
This is
about?
so cool. This is just so cool, because doesn't it take the pressure off? The me, the my, the how, it's like, I don't have to know anything.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't have to do
Yeah.
anything. Oh my God. It's the best kept secret in spirituality, isn't it?
Yes. I agree with you.
But I don't agree that you just said you don't know anything. You know it all.
Yeah, you already know. Right. You're just remembering. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to be able to articulate it right now. It's there and it's working in you. But there are times it takes us to be able to be with something long enough for actually to be able to speak it out loud. It's like there's something brewing in me, something percolating in me, and I can't name it right now, but I'm just open to whatever it's going to be. And I totally agree with you. When we teach treatment, there's such a form to it that people are often intimidated by it. I'm not going to say it right, or I'm not going to make it as pretty as somebody that I listen to, and they do it. I think the funniest thing is when people come up and say, "Oh my God, you said something in your treatment that it just moved me. What was it?" I'm like, I have no idea. Go listen to the recording, because I don't know what I said. Because I'm in the moment of it. And it's like it's not written down. So.
And they may have heard something you might not have spoken, but somehow
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
That's the most interesting part of it. But yeah.
I listened to these recorded lectures of Joel Goldsmith, and I listened to them in my car. So, I could be driving and I hear something and it's like so powerful, I have to pull over so that I can write it down. And then I will hit the track, go back on the track so I can hear it again. And it's like, there's nothing there. I have no idea what I heard, but it's in that moment and it's working in me, and, but it's like, I have no idea,
Oh my God. He's probably speaking on so many different levels. You know what I mean? That's awesome. Having a prayer partner, helped me to break through that fear factor of saying the right thing. And it took a long time to get a prayer partner, because we ghost each other. The class is over and you get ghosted, or you ghost the person. I'm guilty of that. I finally found a prayer partner who, we just take, we just let it go. Like you said, it just flows. It just flows. It's so awesome.
Right.
You don't know what's going to come through. And then they'll say something like that. Oh my God, and it's like, it's awesome.
Yeah. And the things that they become so powerful that you want to capture them. That's one of the traps of a lot of our stuff that we do, is we have a spiritual experience that absolutely moves us in certain ways, and we want to do it again. I've had those meditations that have been so powerful and transformative, and then I just want more of it, and it's like, sometimes, you know, but if I try to force it to happen, like I'll recreate that, you know, it just doesn't, but then, you know, being open to it kind of after a while we'll experience similar things, not necessarily the same thing, but similar ones, more profound or less profound, but still, you know, it's really cool. It really is, you know, to open up and just to let yourself be what is ever needing to be, because like you said, this is the easiest thing we do in spirituality, is to just release it and open ourselves up.
Oh, and the ego does not like that.
No.
He said, I'm gonna post up a class where, you know, you don't let yourself decide what you're gonna do with your life, or what people be like, I'm not gonna do that.
Right. Or I have to listen to some still small voice inside of me. There's nothing in there gonna talk to me. I don't, yeah, it's funny.
You need therapy.
Yeah.
You need to get help.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
You gotta love those people in our lives that and the ones that ask you, well, what did you do to create that?
Oh,
You
yeah.
just want to slap them, you know?
I was in a group, you know, no, I don't know if you've heard of Neville Goddard. It's a Facebook group, and Neville Goddard's all about, you know, getting what you want and all of this stuff. And the group was making me really angry, and I couldn't understand why I was getting so angry at the group and everything. It's because they're all locked into, you know, the level 2. You know, they're locked into that, and they're not moving beyond it. And my spirit, my soul was pushing me to move past that, and the anger was a sign to me that I wasn't in the right place. So.
Yeah, I've learned over the years to really listen to that discrepancy whenever it happens. It's like, oh yeah, this isn't for me. You know, I'm a kind of person that will volunteer for damn near everything. And I've wound up so many times saying yes to something that I really didn't want to do. And every single time it bites me. You know, it's like, oh, Laura, why did you do that again? You know? Really? You know?
You go, I knew that was gonna happen. Yeah.
Well, I just said yes to going to teen camp for my church, and all the way through the process, after I said yes, I'm like, oh, you can't, no, you don't need to be doing this. You don't. And of course I'd said yes and committed to it. And so, you know, I'm going to honor my commitments. And 3 days after I got back, I was in urgent care because I should not have been there, you know? So it was like, okay, this is a lesson learned, you know? I mean, they happen less frequently. And then sometimes they're a little more gentle than this one was, but you know, really that whole idea of, you know, what's mine to do and doing what that is, and not what somebody else's to do. You know,
it was an encore performance.
Yeah.
But I do love your labyrinth.
Mm.
I didn't want to say it's an idea because it's already there. It's like,
Oh yeah, it's a vision. It's definitely a vision, and it's the whole thing of it. I think it's going to be a game changer for our center.
yeah,
That's my feeling of it. It really, like I said, you know, we're in Las Vegas, so even when it's nice out, we have an intense sun that hits here, and all the labyrinths in Las Vegas are outdoors. All the permanent labyrinths are outdoors. There's a couple of places that have canvas ones they put down every once in a while, but it'll be the only indoor one where people could come anytime during the day.
This is a permanent installation?
Permanent installation. It's actually laser cut out of our tile. So we buy the tile, we ship it to these people. I think they're in North Carolina. They gave me the zip code. I haven't looked it up yet, but I think it's North Carolina. It's on the East Coast anyway. They laser cut it, box it, label it, ship it back to us, and we have our tile people install it.
Wow.
You choose 2 different contrasting colors. So let me see. I think I've got
Oh, that's so awesome. Tile. Wow.
This would be like a full labyrinth.
yeah, let me show you.
And
So it's made out of, we're doing that vinyl VCT stuff, vinyl composite tile.
mhm.
There it is. That's similar to what it's going to be.
Cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so it's the vinyl that, we're putting it, same thickness of vinyl that we're putting in the, most of the sanctuary. And it's, we're doing, they have this vinyl tile that looks like stone. And
Wow.
so most of our flooring is wood grained vinyl, but then I'm gonna choose these stone colors that complement the wood grain color and make the labyrinth out of it right in the middle of our sanctuary. So, yeah, it's gonna be exciting, right? And I just had people, I had one person do a matching funds, because we were halfway there, we were almost halfway to our labyrinth, and I had this woman got an inheritance, and she said, I want to put $5,000 down for matching funds for the labyrinth. And the first weekend we got 3,000 of the money, $3,000 donated, 1,500 from her, 1,500 from her, 1,500 from people. And then I just had a lady call me this week and say, I want it to be anonymous, but I'm either going to triple the funds or I'll pay it off so that at the end of the month you'll have the $20,000 you need for the labyrinth. So
Wow.
it'll be paid for pretty much
Wow.
by the end of this month. So
Open and flowing.
What a
Absolutely.
confirmation. Yeah.
absolutely, you know, it's just, I set up 2
That's
fundraisers
great.
for the new center. One was for the youth classrooms so that we could get those all set up. And everybody keeps saying, well, you don't have any children here. And I'm like, yeah, well, if we don't build a space for them, they'll never come. And the
Yeah.
moment somebody comes into the center with kids and there's nothing there for them, they'll never come back.
That's what's happening at our center. And I really appreciate that, because we had a thriving center, and before this time of COVID, yeah, it had just redone it and it was fairly flourishing. And now, they're setting up. And even though we're going to be moving, it's like they've gone ahead and they set it up every week, even if one child shows up.
Mhm.
And that's something we need to figure out, is how do we get the word out? But you're absolutely right. If somebody comes and there isn't something,
Yeah.
you got to build it so that
Right.
they'll come. That's wonderful. Yeah, please. Yeah, let me know when there's an opening for that labyrinth.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Reverend,
would love to be a part of it in another way, but I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Good.
yeah, at Mile High Church in Denver, there's a minister, Reverend Barry Ebert. That was his mission, children, teens. He did the whole youth group, everything. He even wrote songs on the kids treatment song. I don't know if you've heard it on YouTube. It's so great. Music is his ministry. He just retired. I'm like, oh my God, I never got to take a class from him, anything. But I'm seeing him visiting your churches and starting you guys, getting you guys jump started. I'm gonna email him or something, because they made him like an honorary. He's not pulpit anymore. He's still practicing, but that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a few people that tour and go around.
Yeah.
And then invested in little motorhomes, and they come and sing.
Yeah, my friends Melissa and Z do that.
Yes.
They have a little RV that they do a big tour every year, like 3 or 4 months, where they go around touring all over the country to different places. They were here in June.
Oh, I know. We missed them this last time, but yeah, it was a few years back to see them.
Yeah. So there's ways of doing it. We'll just open up to different things and different people coming in. The same lady that got the inheritance and wanted to do the matching funds also donated $10,000 for events. So to help subsidize any events that we have. So that's another thing that we want to start doing, is bringing that in, and concerts or special events of some sort. So
It was interesting, because that's part of why the Masons contacted me.
Yeah.
Because they also, and they realize they want to grow, and this guy is wants to help with events and all of that, and says, do it here. We could have somebody talk, and so yeah. To me, it's interesting.
Absolutely. All righty, our time is complete here, so I'm going to finish it off. Those of you that are watching the video, make sure that you do the visioning and
I have
do the survey. Yes, Valerie.
I was trying to check and trying to locate the answer to this question, but I couldn't find it. Is there for our final class, or is there a report we write, or what is there
You have to do,
required at the,
yeah, you have, I think they talk about it at the beginning. Let me see if I can find the page. It's, like your vision statement or personal vision statement. Let me find it.
okay,
You know, you've been keeping track of all of the, visionings that you've done here. Let's see, where did he have that written out?
okay,
Maybe it may be in week 5, at the end of week 5. Let me see. Well, on page 60, it says, write a personal visioning statement using the methods of identifying themes and articulating the vision presented in module 5, which we're going to talk about next week. Be prepared to share your personal vision statement. That's the only thing for the final. So that's why it's important that you give us the, that you go ahead and put your responses onto that Survey Monkey so that we're going to work with that next week. We're going to look at that and identify themes and the feeling, tone, and so forth of what came through in this visioning. So, so make sure you put your information in Survey Monkey for it. Okay.
okay.
Stop the recording.